Today, I saw Fantastic Four First Steps, and I gotta say, it was really super, man.
Say that again?
2025 has been a pretty good year for superhero movies. Brave New World was just fine, but Thunderbolts was pretty good, and Superman was really fun, so I was actually really looking forward to the Fantastic Four. Where does it land for me compared to the other big superhero movies this year? Well, I guess you'll have to keep watching to find out, I'll also keep this spoiler-free until the very end, where I'll talk about a few minor nitpicks and discuss the post-credit scene, but until then, spoiler-free. The basic plot of the Fantastic Four First Steps is that in a universe where the Fantastic Four are the only superheroes, they become beloved celebrities who the world looks up to for protection. But when Silver Surfer heralds Galactus, a giant planet eater who sets its sights on Earth, it's up to them to stop him and save the day. First of all, I want to say that I really like the celebrity aspect of this movie. We get a little intro very similar to Peter's opening monologue in the first Spider-Verse, showing how they have toys and a cartoon and appear on TV, and I think that's pretty cool. That does lead to a little bit of a nitpick though. Minor spoilers, but at one point in the movie, Galactus gives the Fantastic Four a way out of having the Earth eaten, but they refuse to comply, and when they tell the people of the world that they didn't take Galactus' offer, everyone is rightfully pretty pissed. For all of 4 minutes, then it's right back to the Fantastic Four being everyone's lord and savior. I personally would have liked if they had a bit more time to see the world turn against the Fantastic Four and struggle with the moral dilemma of how to deal with the situation properly, but this is a very fast movie. From the opening logos, it gets right into it. No slow fade to black or anything, just a hard cut into the first scene of the movie immediately after Marvel Studios appears. This movie is also pretty short by modern movie standards. Most movies now are at least 2.5 hours long, but this one barely cracks an hour 50, not including credits. There's not a lot of action in this movie either. A lot of this movie is the Fantastic Four standing around and talking about how Galactus is coming, or doing scientific tests and experiments, which is fine because they all have pretty good chemistry, but I still would have preferred to see them all use their powers a bit more. Speaking of the Fantastic Four, let's actually talk about them, starting with Mr. Fantastic himself, Reed Richards. Pedro Pascal is a good Reed, and he definitely got the most time to shine, but I really wish we got to see more of his stretchy powers and they were used for more creative things, because most of it just amounts to his legs and arms get long. Sue Storm was good in this movie too. She definitely was the second most important character and had some of the most emotionally intense scenes in the movie, where Vanessa Kirby really showed off her acting chops, and her powers, while vague, were used pretty well. Johnny was overall good in this movie too. He has a small subplot related to the Silver Surfer that isn't honestly all that interesting, and his relationship with her was a lot less prominent than the trailers would have you think, just a few 15-second long interactions until near the end of the second act. I also think that the CGI on his fire can be very hit or miss, mainly when he's in normal human form but surrounded by fire. I noticed it most in a scene where he's in the dark with Reed, or one where he saves a little kid on the street, but for the most part he looked pretty cool. Finally, we have The Thing. He was definitely the most underused. He didn't really go through an arc or have much of a subplot besides a love interest he shares all of 2 scenes with, but I still found him enjoyable, and his CGI was amazing. Sometimes you forget that he's not actually there. Our villains are the Silver Surfer and Galactus, and they're both alright. I think my main issue is their lack of interaction with the Fantastic Four. I get that Galactus is supposed to be more of a looming threat, but until the final battle, he appears once and that's it. And after she originally heralds Galactus and introduces the Fantastic Four to him, Silver Surfer only really has some quick interactions with Johnny and tells her origin, and that's pretty much it. That's not to say that these are bad villains though, far from it. I thought Silver Surfer was really cool. They found some cool ways to use her board, and while her CGI was pretty iffy sometimes, it's not as awful as some people online were saying. Galactus looked amazing though. Most of the budget definitely went to him. There's a great sense of scale to him compared to something like Ant-Man Quantumania, since we're in the real world and can compare him to real life objects, and the special effects used on him look amazing, which is in no small part thanks to the practical effects and physical suit they used for some scenes, which is really cool. Some of the other things with this movie before getting into some brief spoilers are that it does its setting justice. Whether it's the score or the technology used or the architecture, this is a very cool retro-futuristic universe, and I hope we see it return sometime soon. There's also a surprising lack of side characters. In this movie, it's briefly shown that Sue is a politician of some sort, and she seems to have this advisor lady who appears a few times very briefly, but that's it. Like I said before, Ben also has a love interest who, again, only appears for 2 or 3 very brief scenes. Mr. Fantastic barely interacts with anyone outside of some reporters in the Fantastic Four, and the same goes for Johnny. We rarely get scenes of anyone besides the Thing just out on the street when they're not fighting crime, and I think that's a really missed opportunity. 70% of this movie is either in the Baxter Building or in space, so the Fantastic Four feel pretty isolated from the world, which is a shame because again, I would have loved to see them actually interact with more people. I have some spoiler related thoughts about this movie, but if you want to hear my overall thoughts before I say them, I thought this movie was a fun time. Compared to Superman and Thunderbolts, Thunderbolts is still my favorite superhero movie this year, and I surprisingly like Superman quite a bit more than this one, but this is still a really cool film that I'm glad exists, a solid 7 out of 10. Now it's spoiler time. I only have 3 main things to talk about here, first being the baby. In case you somehow don't know, in this movie Sue Storm gives birth to a superpowered baby named Franklin that Galactus wants so he can use his powers, and his CGI is just horrible. Sometimes when you aren't looking at his face it's fine, but a lot of his scenes just look really iffy, especially a moment where Galactus is holding him in his hand, that just looked really bad. Also, Reed's big master plan for saving the day is setting up beacons around the Earth that'll teleport the planet to somewhere safe, but there's a few problems with that. First of all, he's only successfully done this test once, and it was with an egg, and he quite literally says, "What's the difference between Earth and an egg?" Like, come on, Reed, you're supposed to be the scientist here. That's a very big leap. Also, in all the teleporting Earth diagrams, the moon also teleported because, as you probably know, we need the moon, but how would that happen? There are no scenes where they're shown putting teleporting beacons on the moon, and we even have a shot of Galactus flying by the moon where they could have very easily shown a beacon there, but nope. So if the Earth actually succeeded in teleporting, it would have been moonless. Meaning that we'd not only have days that are only a few hours long, but it would also considerably mess up the climate and ecosystem. Like the Thunderbolts post-credit scene, its post-credit scene was filmed on the set of Avengers Doomsday and has a pretty similar visual style to it, where we see a 4-year time jump that shows Dr. Doom interacting with the 5-year-old Franklin Richards. What does this mean for Doomsday? I have no idea. Maybe Doom wants to use Franklin's powers against the heroes, or maybe his hatred of Reed is so big that he wants to steal away his son and make him his own. I don't know. And in case you were wondering, no, we don't see Robert Downey Jr.'s face. I doubt this movie could afford that, even as a small cameo. We see his green cloak from behind and he's holding his mask, which looks to be pretty similar to the mask he had on when he was first revealed at Comic-Con, just in higher quality. So yeah, that's cool. Guess we'll have to wait till next year to see what comes of this. Still feels really crazy that the next Avengers movie is so close, but yeah, until then, hope you enjoyed my video. Be sure to like and subscribe if you did, and stick around if you want to hear me yap about more junk. My next video should be about video games, so yeah, adios.